Hey, it's time to start a new chapter in our science book. You need to get your science book out and open it to page 417. Some of you said you don't ever know what page we're on in our science book. I always tell you at the beginning of the lesson, 417. All right. So if you send me a message and say, what page are we on? I'll know you didn't listen. So you just try to do the assignment. Page 417 in our book is where you need to be. We're starting a new unit on natural resources. Now, when we were going over the benchmark review, I gave you a couple little slides on natural resources just in case you need to learn about that for the benchmark. Kind of introduced you to them, but we're going to dig in deep as we go through this chapter. And lesson 1 today, again, page 417 in your science book. So turn there with me. And today's essential question is, what are natural resources? Do you see some resources in this picture on page 417 that are part of nature? What do you think we might see? Definitely trees, right? And what do we get from trees? Well, we get wood, right? We get timber, lumber to build things. Yeah. Are you holding a pencil? Where do you think that wood came from? It came from a tree, right? If your pencil's made out of wood. So wood, trees, forest are a natural resource. We'll be learning about that. Okay, let's go flip the page 418 and start reading here. Resources you can rely on. Soap. I used some of that this morning. I hope you did too. Water, clothes, wood, bricks, pencils, paper. What do all these things have in common? They're all natural resources or things made from these resources. Soap? You think soap's made from a natural resource? I guess we'll find out. These pictures show natural resources. Natural resources, you know we're going to have a vocabulary assignment. Go ahead and underline this. Natural resources are materials found in nature that are used by living things. Underline that. Natural resources are materials found in nature. So it's something that we can find in nature, something we didn't make. It's something that's just there in nature, but that we can use. So let's look and see if we can decide what these are. There's a tree, so we can get wood from a tree. Sometimes we get fruit from a tree, don't we? Or nuts. This little guy's about to drink some water here. Water is in nature. These fans, what? Are fans? Did those fans grow there in nature? No, of course not. They're using wind. Wind is part of nature. It's a natural resource to turn these things to produce electricity. And shrimp. Do you use shrimp? I use some shrimp when I'm hungry sometimes, don't you? So we can use the natural resources found in water, food, as food. So all these are natural resources, materials found in nature that are used by living things. All right, look at a picture. What renewable resources? Well, we better find out what renewable resources are first. Page 419. Some natural resources, such as water and air, are used again and again. Other resources form quickly in nature and are easy to replace. If a tree is cut to make paper, a new tree can be grown in a short time. The new tree will replace the old tree. Natural resources that can be replaced quickly are called renewable resources. Underline that. Natural resources that can be replaced quickly are called renewable resources. So anything that we can replace and I know a tree doesn't just grow overnight, but you can replace it, and in a few years, you'll have another big tree there. So anything that can be replaced, water goes through the water cycle, right? It evaporates, then condensates, and then precipitates, and comes back into water. And there's a water cycle. Water's a renewable resource. We got to make sure we keep it clean, though, don't we? Air is going to be there. If air just ever disappeared, we'd be in trouble, wouldn't we? All those things are renewable resources. Scientists also consider sunlight and wind renewable resources because they'll never be used up. People need to use renewable resources wisely. The wise use of resources is called conservation. Another word you need to know. The wise use of resources is called conservation. Why is conservation important? People can use up renewable resources. Think about this. What would happen to fish if people ate more fish than could be replaced, soon there'd be no fish left, right? So you've seen those big boats out in the ocean with their huge nets, and they get all the huge amounts of fish day after day, boat after boat. Pretty soon they can make all the fish, a certain kind of fish they're fishing for in an area, disappear if they're not careful. So you have to be careful not to overfish. Or for foresting and cutting down trees for wood, we have to make sure we don't overforest and get rid of all the trees before any new ones can grow back. So you have to be careful with natural resources, even the renewable ones, and use them wisely, or they'll disappear. And some things in nature are non-renewable. You can't replace them easily. Not all natural resources can be replaced quickly. Some natural resources take thousands or millions of years to form. Natural resources that aren't easily replaced are called non-renewable resources. So we had renewable ones that you can replace easily, but things on this page we're going to read about are non-renewable. It can take thousands or millions of years to replace a non-renewable resource. Let's underline this. Natural resources that aren't easily replaced are called non-renewable resources. Fossil fuels are an example of a non-renewable resource. Coal, oil, and natural gas are all types of fossil fuels. Some are used to produce electricity. Some are used to run planes, cars, and other vehicles. Because they form so slowly, there are limited amounts of fossil fuels and other non-renewable resources. Once non-renewable resources are used up, they cannot be replaced in our lifetime. If people keep using fossil fuels at the same rate they use them today, these fuels will be gone very soon. So there's been a topic about this in the news. Of course, we've got a new president now, President Biden, and President Trump and him have very different thoughts. And I'm not saying who's right and who's wrong. Everybody has different thoughts about it. But they have different thoughts about these non-renewable resources. And so oil is something that we can get from our country as we mine for oil and natural gas and coal. And we can find these things in our country. And President Trump thought it would be good to create a pipeline that would pipe the oil in from Alaska and cut down into the United States so we didn't have to buy oil from other countries. And so he started this project to do that. Well, when President Biden became president, he stopped the project. He said, we don't need to be using so much of our oil because it's a non-renewable resource. If we use it all, we can't replace it. So there's different thoughts there. Some people think it's there, we need to use it instead of buying it from other countries, so it's cheaper because we produce our own. Some people think, nope, we don't need to be digging for non-renewable resources. We'll use them all up and we can't replace them then. So there's different thoughts about this. And again, I'm not saying who's right and who's wrong. That's not my job. But it's two different thought processes on non-renewable resources. Okay, let's go to the next page here, page 421. Soil is a non-renewable resource that people use to grow crops. Can't replace soil, can you? If it's gone, it's gone. We can't make more dirt. It can be washed away if it is left uncovered or used improperly. As a result, it's important for people to conserve soil. So soil takes hundreds of years to form. It's made of weathered rock and once living plants and animals. So you see this farmer here tending his crops there. Like I've told you before, I grew up on a strawberry farm, so we had to take care of the soil and make sure it had the right nutrients in it and rotate crops to keep nutrients in it. So there's a lot of different ways you can take care of the soil, making sure it doesn't wash away. Minerals and rocks are other types of non-renewable resources. A mineral is a non-living solid with a crystal form. A rock is a solid substance made of one or more minerals. A rock that contains a valuable mineral in it is called an ore. Many minerals and rocks, such as limestone and aluminum ore, are mined. Once they've been removed from a mine, there are none left. It takes a long time for more minerals or rocks to form. So iron ore comes from mines like this. Iron is an important part of the steel we use to build bridges and tall buildings. So there's some mines around us. There's a mine over in Jefferson City you can drive by. There's lots of mines near the mountains. and they mine for different minerals in those mines. They dig and dig and dig and try to mine these, and they'll collect them and they'll use them to build different things. Look at here. Look at interpreting a graph. This graph shows the percentage of different natural resources used to produce electricity in the United States. How much comes from fossil fuels? Well, fossil fuels are natural gas and coal and oil. So 33 plus 33 is 66, plus 1 is 67. So 67% of the energy we use to produce electricity comes from fossil fuels. Renewable energy sources can produce electricity, like those wind towers we saw that turn, but only 13% of our electricity comes from that. 20% comes from nuclear energy. It's made from nuclear energy. That's a little scary, isn't it? But there's a graph showing how the electricity is produced in the United States. From coast to coast, you use natural resources every day. Some natural resources provide shelter. Others help you learn in school. On these pages, you will learn where some natural resources come from. Every state has natural resources. Many natural resources are found in greater quantities in some parts of the United States than others. Trees, silver, wind, coal, and fish are just a few examples of natural resources found in the United States. People mine land to get many natural resources. Some mining is done to get valuable minerals such as silver, iron, and copper. Mining also takes place to get fossil fuels. Other mining gets rocks used to construct roads and buildings. Sometimes land is used for food production. Ranchers raise cattle that graze on the land. Dairy farmers use land to raise cows that provide milk to make cream and cheese. Soil is also used to grow crops such as corn, avocados, and oranges. Some land is used to produce green energy, or energy generated using renewable resources. Wind farms, solar cells, hydroelectric dams use wind, sunlight, and water to produce electrical energy. Forests, or areas with large number of trees, provide lumber. People use lumber to make paper and furniture and to build houses. Down here it says people use land to raise livestock and grow crops. Look at the natural resources map and locate the region where you live. It's on the next page. Circle the renewable resources and draw an X over the non-renewable resources found there. Let's take a look at this map. So here's Tennessee. We only have one in our state, don't we? And that's mining. So we have some mining in our state. Is mining a renewable resource or non-renewable? It's non-renewable, isn't it? Because when we dig and take this stuff out of the ground, you can't replace it. You can't put it back. So we have more non-renewable resources in our state. However, we've got a lot of trees, don't we? There must not be as much lumber, timber farming as there is in some states below us, though. So take a look at our legend here. We've got fisheries. Fish is a natural resource. A lot of that along the northeast coast up here. Timber, that's where they're cutting down trees. Down here in the southeast and some up in the northwest. Mining runs all along. Do you notice what it runs along here? Why do you think it's kind of in a line? What do you think it's sitting on? It's the Appalachian Mountains. Appalachian Mountains have a lot of mining near them. Oil is kind of down in the south, middle south, southeastern part, middle south, southern part of the United States, Texas, Oklahoma, mining for oil. Green energy, it's where they're using natural resources, renewable resources like wind, solar power, and water. California on the West Coast, down in Texas, up in the Dakotas, a little bit up here, maybe. What is that? Massachusetts? No. I don't know I can't tell what state that is. Michigan, somewhere around in there. Okay, so all these different types of resources, natural resources in the United States. People use trees for lumber. People use hydroelectric dams, wind turbines, and solar panels to produce green energy. People mine land to get minerals, rocks, and fossil fuels. All right, let's keep going. Turn to page 424. Flowing down slope. Every second, millions of gallons of water flow from the Mississippi River into the Gulf of Mexico. Where does all that water come from? So Mississippi River is the biggest river in the United States. Starts up here near the Great Lakes, flows all the way down. Where is all the water coming from? Well, look and see. The Mississippi River watershed is an important natural resource. It's home to many living things. So we've got all these rivers that flow into it. All these rivers. There's the Missouri River. That's what Lewis and Clark traveled on, isn't it? Arkansas River, Red River, Tennessee River. It runs right through where we live. So all these rivers pour into the Mississippi River as it flows down into the Gulf of Mexico. It's a natural resource. It's called a watershed, all of these rivers together. From its source as a tiny stream in northern Minnesota to where it empties into the Gulf of Mexico, the Mississippi River spans 3,782 kilometers, which is 2,350 miles. Along the way, it connects with hundreds of rivers and streams, including the Missouri and Ohio rivers. Water from 31 states drains into the Mississippi River. All of this water makes the Mississippi River system one of the world's largest watersheds. Here's an important word. A watershed is all of the land and water that drain into a river system. A watershed is an important natural resource. States often share the water in a watershed. Virginia, for example, shares the water in the Chesapeake Bay watershed with 5 other states, as well as the District of Columbia. The rivers and streams in a watershed are used in many ways. For example, the Mississippi River supplies drinking water to more than 50 cities. People also use water from the Mississippi River to grow crops, for recreation, and for transportation. So we've got the Cherokee Lake near us, don't we? It's a natural resource in our area. Actually, it wasn't natural. There was just a river, but we dammed it, and it became a lake. But people use it for recreation. You see people out on Cherokee Lake always on their boats. They're fishing. See them canoeing, swimming. Probably some of you swim in the lake. You can use the lake water for food, to grow food, to water your crops. Remember when we talked about irrigation? And you can use it for transportation. You can carry things on the rivers from one place to another. But, of course, with natural resources like water, we've got to keep it clean. Using up natural resources too quickly is a problem. Another problem is pollution or harmful materials in the environment. Pollution is harmful to natural resources. How can you help to conserve natural resources and prevent pollution? Pollution can harm air, water, and soil. It can also harm plants and animals. Many communities have cleanup projects to make the environment healthier for everyone. Have you ever just been driving down the road and you see trash just thrown on the side of the road in ditches? I mean, just tons of trash. It makes me so mad that people just throw their trash out their car window and let it get all polluted on the side of the road. And animals can eat that and get sick, or it can have poisons in it that kills animals or plants. So we got to keep our environment clean. We don't want to be a polluter. We can keep it clean. One way we can do it is to recycle. What happens to trash? It ends up in a landfill, which is wasteful. Many things we throw away can be reused. For example, some things such as paper, glass, plastic, and metal can be recycled and made into new products. By reducing, reusing, and recycling, we help conserve natural resources, the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. How can you help? What can you do to help cut down on air pollution caused by cars and trucks? Draw a picture of your solution in the space above. Well, right now you're not going to school every day in a car or truck, are you? You're staying home. But we could carpool. We could have more than one family in a car, so we could use less cars, make less pollution. We could recycle to make less trash go into the dump that we have in Morristown. If you've never driven out there, you ought to have your parents drive you out to the landfill sometime. It's mountains and mountains of trash covered by dirt. It looks like big mountains of dirt. And underneath them is trash decomposing. And every now and then you'll see a pipe coming up out of the ground with gas coming out of it because of that decomposing trash produces methane gas. Pretty nasty, huh? All right. So let's take a look at this real quick. Just some words here. Non-renewable resources can be quickly replaced or renewed after they're used. That's not true. Renewable resources can be quickly replaced. Examples of renewable resources are rocks and coal. No, sunlight, wind, water, trees. Oil, minerals, and soil are all renewable resources. No, they're non-renewable resources that will be gone forever once they're used up. Non-renewable resources can take 10 to 20 years to be replaced. No, it said thousands to millions of years to be replaced. You conserve natural resources so that they disappear faster? No, so they last longer. All right. You know you're going to have a vocabulary assignment today. It's going to be on these 7 words right here. Use what you've underlined, fill in the blank, and then go do the assignment. I can't tell you how many people fail these vocabulary assignments, guys. Don't do it. I hope you're not just going to guess today. Find the answers. They're back in the text we just read. Put them in here. Write them in your science book, and then do the assignment. It'll be so much easier, okay? All right. Well, we're going to keep learning about natural resources this week. Tomorrow we'll do a digital lesson. Today I do want you to do the vocabulary assignment that goes with this lesson. It'll be these words right here, these definitions right here. See you later.